Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before rank each episode against each other. And today's episode is One Piece Arabasta Saga, Little Garden Arc, episode 74, The Devil's Candle, Tears of Regret, and Tears of Anger. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So, obviously, in the last episode, Baroque Works captured Nami, Zoro, and Vivi. In this episode, they are set up on a wax service set, which is created by Mr. 3, and it is basically a cake with a pillar, a pumpkin on top of that with candles, and the pumpkin spins while little microscopic dusts of melted wax rain down, and this is supposed to slowly solidify these three into lifelike wax figures. And Brogy, after being taunted with everything that Mr. 3 did to interfere with his fight with Brogy, or Dory, decides to get up, and he manages to break the wax that's holding him down, but Mr. 5 then uses a bunch of bombs that lead to him falling again, and he's then put into even stronger wax handcuffs. Meanwhile, Zoro decides that, he's gonna make a final stand. He pulls out his swords and he intends to cut through his legs and go fight on the stubs, and asks Brogy if he's ready to do like the same to get out of the handcuffs because he knows he can still move. However, he gets about halfway through cutting his legs when Luffy, Usopp, and Karu, who have made a recovery, basically, while all of this was happening, back at where Luffy was stuck, Luffy wakes up, says, like, can you stand to let it end like this? And Usopp says that he can't. Then Karu gets up and starts to dig around Luffy, which Usopp helps with, and then now they come running through the clearing, ready to fight, and Luffy is asked to break the pillar of the wax set, while everyone else is basically now ready to do battle. So that happened. And that was a little bit out of order, but maybe to summarize it in a more understandable way, Brogy gets taunted, tries to escape and fails. Zara and Brogy plan a final stand, but Luffy and the others arrive just in time, and that sets up for next episode where the battle will truly begin. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is time to rank the episode. First on the mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. And we have our multi-arc supporting character development as the first 3 points, and that's Brogy breaking free before being recaptured. Then we have our multi-arc supporting character growth, and this is Mr. 3. He uses Candle Jacket, Candle Lock, Extra Big Candle Set, and Wax Wax Arts Handcuffs. So he unleashes quite a few new attacks. And then we had our multi-arc main character development, which of course is Zoro, Nami, Vivi being placed on the candle set in order to turn them into wax figures, and Zoro almost cutting his legs off until Luffy arrives, having been dug out. Which is a lot of developments for a lot of people, but I counted them all in bulk because it's all for the same purpose, and honestly that brings us to a 10 out of 10 anyways. So it is a 10 out of 10 episode. Which puts it into first place, The Devil's Candle, Tears of Regret and Tears of Anger, Prehistoric Legend, The Shadow Lurking in Little Garden, Humongous Battle, The Giant's Story and Brogy, Brogy Wails in Victory, Elbaf's Judgment, and then Luffy's Anger, A Dirty Trick in a Sacred Battle. And my personal ranking for this episode was, I did enjoy the episode. However, it is moving us along, and I like that. I like the wax candle set. That's one of my favorite attacks from these early sagas. I also like how Zoro was literally going to cut his legs off and then stopped. I like how when Luffy and Usopp can barely move because they've been kick bombed to the point of being like black with soot. Um, Luffy's like, "Can you stand that they've won?" And Usopp's there, like, not able to move, like, head to the sky. No, I can't. And it's just funny because at that point, they're not quite recovered enough that you believe they can do anything. Of course, by the time they come running into the clearing, they have recovered more fully. However, I did find the taunting and bad sportsmanship to be in poor taste, so wasn't overly fond of that. And a lot of the episode was a lot of taunting and talking because, Mr. Three has a captive audience, and he's going to take advantage of that because he is yet again one of the villains that love their epic villain speeches to their captive audience. And so I really liked the episode. I do think there is room for improvement, hence why I gave it an 8 out of 10. It still is in first place though, and I've put The Devil's Candle, Tears of Regret, and Tears of Anger, followed by Brogy, Whales and Victory, Elbaf's Judgment, Humongous Battle, The Giant Story and Brogy, Prehistoric Island, The Shadow Lurking in Little Garden, and then Luffy's Anger, A Dirty Trick and a Sacred Battle is in 5th place so far. That brings us now to our saga ranking so far. Once again, Reverse Mountain Arc is in first, Whiskey Peak in second, Kobe and Helmet Bow in third. Little Garden Arc has 33 out of 80 on the mostly objective ranking, and on the personal ranking has a score of 31 out of 80. Series ranking so far, East Blue Saga in first place, Arabasta Saga at 18 out of 70, and then 12 out of 70 on the personal ranking. With that, we have now rewatched and ranked One Piece, Arabasta Saga, Little Garden Arc, Episode 74, The Devil's Candle, Tears of Regret, and Tears of Anger. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.